Hello. I I have a problem when talking to people that I'm going to share with you. That it's kind of like we have a different language or something that people hear the words coming out of my mouth and don't aren't perceiving the ideas that I'm trying to express. So I'm going to go a little bit today into a definition of an important concept, and that's the concept of spirit. What a spirit is, and oh, let's see. Uh, Now, the native Inuit in up in the Arctic Circle have I forgot how many it is exactly, but it's something like 14 different words for snow, and we just call them all snow. All 14 of those words translate into English as snow. That doesn't mean that there isn't little different ideas connected with their it's a different type of snow. Maybe it's wet snow, maybe it's icy snow, maybe it's sleety snow. I don't know. But anyway, they've got all these different words for snow that we just say snow down here. It's the same thing with spirit. In the Bible, there are I know it and I can't think of it. How many words there are that are all translated as spirit. But just like the Inuits snow, there's different ideas connected with each of their words, but they all have the same basic meaning of snow. You know it's talking about some kind of snow every time. Same thing here in the Bible when we're reading about a spirit. A spirit, the general idea that holds true on all the different places where spirit is used, the general idea connected with this is a spirit is an unseen motivational force, a something that's unseen that will cause an effect here in the physical universe. A breath. You inhale it, it gives you oxygen, allows you to live, it gives you life. It has an effect here in the physical world. I'm living because I've got oxygen through my breath. That's one of the words that is translated as spirit, and it's also translated as breath. And let's see, when you look outside and you see the leaves waving around in the trees, guess what? That's a spirit waving those leaves. It's the same word, spirit and breeze or wind or puff of air. These are all translated as spirit. It's an invisible force. We don't see the wind, we see the effect of the wind. Spirits are invisible. All spirits, just like all snow is cold, all spirits are invisible. The effect of the spirits are what you see. So Jesus tells us that God is spirit. That means only that God is invisible. That doesn't mean that God is not real. We tend to think, okay, for instance, here. Now, jump up in the air. A spirit is going to bring you back down here to the earth. That spirit is gravity. It's an unseen, invisible force, has an effect on you, pulls you down to the planet every time you jump up. Now that spirit is real. God is the creative spirit of the universe. All that is created. Every tiny particle of physical matter is created by God. God is the invisible spirit. And it's in God that we live and move and have our being. The things that we are made of, the physical things that we are made by God. Okay, so anyway, we got the idea of the Spirit, that it's an invisible force, and that the creative the creative invisible force that we call God is intelligent because it has intent. There's purpose behind it. We have an intelligent creator. Everything that you see is created with purpose. Now, if there is no purpose in something, then there's no intelligence. What they try to teach you at school is that there is no purpose. That the center and most important thing in existence is mankind. And this is such an absurd lie that is so hard to deal with because being animals, we like to think we are the greatest, we're the best. But it just simply isn't true. We are not the ones that created everything. Well, anyway, hey, I'm drifting off on the tangents again. Let's try to stay focused on spirit, because I was thinking it's still, we're in the beginning of Genesis, what I've been talking about. And I was thinking about, well, I totally skipped where God created man. Let's see, where is it? It says, Yahweh God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living creature. Here we see the intelligence and purpose, and well, of course, Yahweh is he who will be manifest. This is talking about the God, and where it says God here, that's word is Elohim, which is the mighty ones. So it is the Spirit of God that motivates the mighty ones. It's God's purpose, God's intent that is done by the mighty ones, by the Elohim. When they breathed into Adam the breath of life, oxygen, this gas, the air, the invisible stuff all around us went into him, and he became a living creature. A lot of versions say living soul, but the word soul and creature are the same word in the original Hebrew. So these living creatures come about by the will of God, by the Spirit of God, for the purpose of God. Now, so for now on, whenever I'm talking about spirit, no, then I'm not talking about little ghosts, imps, pixies, any kind of idiotic things that mankind called spirits. I'm talking about an invisible force that causes an effect here in the physical universe. And because something is an invisible force does not mean there's not intelligence, because we don't see anything created without intelligence. It's absurd and idiotic to think that you see something that has to have been put together with purpose that it would be done by accident. I think I mentioned before, I saw somebody on the computer who said that, they knew about statistics, and they said that it is more likely for a tornado to go and hit the local junkyard and tear all the junk apart and put it back together as a fully functional passenger airplane than for the molecules and atoms that make up just the DNA inside of one living cell. That is highly more improbable than having the hurricane build a passenger plane. And so anyway, it doesn't happen. Every time we see something that has order to it, order comes from chaos, by intelligence. That intelligence is God. God is a spirit. So God is the spirit that gives existence to all the spirits. There is no wind without God. There's no breath of life without God. There's no gravity without God. There's no electromagnetism without God. There's no spirits without God. It says in the book of John, that in the beginning was the Logos. A lot of in the old King James, it says in the beginning was the Word. This word, the Greek word Logos, is talking about the plan, the purpose. In the beginning, there was purpose. And the purpose in the beginning of our era and the Bible and everything that we know about, at the beginning of that was a purpose, and the purpose was with God. It was God's purpose, and the purpose that God had was God. God manifestation. God will be manifest in His creation. God will be expressed through what He creates. Now, this is an interesting thing. That God's intent and purpose is to be expressed in His creation. Now, we see the Elohim, and it talks about the Elohim synonymously with God. And it's generally translated everywhere as God. Not always. Sometimes it's talking about idols or things that people refer to as gods, But just as a general rule, almost usually, there are other exceptions, like rulers, they can be Elohim too. But anyway, these mighty ones are doing God's will. So that's God that we see. We see famous, important people that want to see God. Moses, he goes up into the mountain. He wants to see God. And what does God do? He tells him godly characteristics so that with his mind he can see God. You don't see with your eyes or hear with your ears. This is not where your perception comes from. You get indications through these sensory organs, and the perception is in your mind so that we can perceive God. Oh, I've got a phone call. I'm going to have to let this go here. I will continue. Thanks for watching.